So, viewers, we are here. It's week 2 of the Beneath the Surface series. I know most of you have been locked in. I've been seeing the comments, I've been seeing the reviews, I've been seeing the ratings. So thank you so much for sticking with us. And this morning, I'm going to give my co-host the absolute pleasure of introducing this morning's guest.
And of course, thank you. I also want to shout out to our viewers joining us for the very first time this week from Flow. We have joined the Flow family, and that's, exciting news for us, Luke. And we really just want our viewers, wherever you are viewing from, whatever platform, to just appreciate what we share with you from our beautiful island of Tobago. And with that, let me bring on our guest, someone I'm sure you are very familiar with. And if I just say the nickname he goes by, you know who I'm talking about. He's Whitey, but this morning, we are going to address him as Assemblyman Ian Anthony Pollard. We have to get the entire government name out there this morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Natalie. Good morning, Luke. Good morning.
And of course, for our viewers, just to let them know that you hold the portfolio for the Secretary of Settlements, Public Utilities, and is it Rural Development? Yes. And of course, you represent the area of, is it Mason Hall, Mariah? Yes, sometimes I say Mariah. Mason Hall, right? The 2 M's on the island. Mason Hall, Mariah. So good morning again, sir, and welcome.
Good morning, and good morning to your audience, especially the constituents of Mason Hall and Mariah.
And this morning, of course, as you know, we are talking about Beneath the Surface. Who is Mr. Pollard? Yes, we know you as secretary, we know you as area representative, but that's not the only part, your existence. Of course, you started somewhere, you have your values, and of course, we want to get into of what you are doing in your division, some of your challenges, some of your victories, and we had your counterpart, Assistant Secretary Orlando Kerr, with us this morning, who would have shared some of the initiatives going on in your division. So, I want to start it off again because many people may know you as a politician. They may know you, coming to work in the office. But who is Mr. Pollard?
Well, Mr. Pollard is the 6th of 8 siblings of Eileen and Belton Pollard, both deceased. A sports enthusiast, I played for Signal and Senior Comprehensive, winning the first intercol title in 1982. Been afforded a football scholarship to go and study at the University of New Haven in 1987. Went under heart surgery the first year at the university. Has the second oldest artificial heart valve in the world.
Wow.
And just a lover of Tobago and the advancement of Tobago and Tobagonians.
And you mentioned 6 of 8 siblings. What was it like growing up in a house with 8 of you?
I was always the favorite of my parents, so I used to get away with everything.
I wonder if the others will agree with that. We'll find out. So what was it like? I mean, having siblings, I guess you don't need to wait on the neighbor's child to play with you.
No.
And you mentioned sports.
And that's why we were in sports, because my parents had 8 siblings. My aunt lived with us, they had 4. That's 12. And then another aunt living behind us, they had 8.
Wow.
So we used to have a full 2 teams that we could have played football, netball, whatever we wanted to play, cricket in the roadway. So we always closely knitted as a family.
Right. What did you study at university?
I have my qualifications in accounting, economics, and finance.
Right. And I wonder how many of you knew that. Sometimes, we see our politicians and I mean, it is practice because we say in government, your minister or your secretary doesn't have to have that skill set because they have the technical advisors. Correct. But I always think it's good if you can be aligned to that your specific ministry in terms of, training, because you kind of can keep tabs of what's happening.
Correct.
So it's good that you have that training and, that professional background. I know you'd have worked across many industries. I also understand that I don't know if you still do it, but I know you, maybe I'll say were a FET promoter.
Yes,
and I guess that would have brought, management skills, logistic skills, and, so how do you think that these different training across different industries, because quite various, you're talking about economics, finance, promoting FETs, how do you think that trained you for where you are today?
Well, I was always the person who liked investments. I'm not the person who will depend on the government. First time I worked for the government was probably 1998.
Right.
But I always wear something that you could always grow into something. You could always excel if you do something on your own. So I always had that initiative. I had the backing of my family because besides being a FET promoter in a young age, I did several other investments. I tried everything because I always wanted to get ahead so I could make a better life, not for myself, but for my entire family.
Right.
So all of these bode well, but my passion is really real estate and land development. Because I see the home, as Ms. Bradshaw just said on the last interview, that a home is home and housing is a social issue. And we're seeing where the problems in society now stems from the breakdown or the decay in the home.
Right.
And I'm thinking that if we pay attention to that aspect of life, I think we'll have a better society. But I've tried, like I said, I have 2 kids. I never worked for the government, 36 and 29, because I always like the private sector. Explore. It's better you work for yourself than be working for somebody. So I use all these opportunities to grow, but I always have a love for people and see people satisfied.
Right.
Okay, great, Mr. Pollard. And you touched on homes from a metaphorical perspective. So I want to go into the homes in a literal sense. Yesterday, speaking with Mr. Kerr, we touched on that national issue where housing is concerned. We understand that people have to wait over 25 plus years for one house. But I want you to provide an update on the progress of the social affordable housing units project that commenced sometime in February 2024, if I'm correct. And what impact has it had on addressing the housing needs on the island of Tobago?
Well, the social affordable housing initiative was to really construct 10 homes for needy families, because we're seeing more and more persons falling through that crack that need that kind of assistance, because you have persons, mothers with 5 children, being evicted, having domestic violence issues. So we really we wanted to construct these homes to assist this person, because these are initiatives we saw when we visited Jamaica and St. Vincent, how they deal with the social issues of housing. But funding is a problem. I mean, a contractor was given the contract to construct these homes. We had paid at least $2 million thus far. We have for at least 4 homes. But the homes run at least about $565,000 for the 3-bedroom and $485 for the 2 bedrooms. He has completed 1 home at Blemin, and he started the next 3 at Milford Court. So we are hoping sometime by April those 3 could be finished, and then start the next 6 to have that contract over and done with, so that person, because we have persons on the waiting list with various issues that we really need to move them into these homes.
And Mr. Pollard, you touched on the finances being one of the major problems or setbacks, so completing these projects. And in the Tobago space, we understand that the conversation of Tobago's autonomy somewhat aims to remedy that problem that you all are facing with financial constraints. Give us that future perspective. If the island is to achieve some level of autonomy, we understand that the bill speaks to us getting a certain amount from the national budget. How do you see that that achievement of Tobago's autonomy transforming the housing sector here on the island of Tobago?
Well, we would definitely get a higher allocation or more monies, because this year we were only given $2 million for housing, while the Ministry of Housing in Trinidad got $192 million. And then you have homes being constructed by the land settlement agencies. They have starter homes being built, I think 600 starter homes to give away to people in Trinidad, citizens in Trinidad, freely. But we were only given $2 million. So unless the allocation is increased, we will always stick in this quagmire, because beside that, what they give us also is $4 million for the grants program. So it's making me feel like all we could do is do repairs.
Right.
There's no housing construction on the island. That is why we have the PPP. We have introduced the PPP arrangement, or the design build finance, so that we could have contractors from the space come with their money and increase the housing stock. That is the only way we could remedy the situation, because our database has over 9,000 persons waiting for homes in housing lands in Tobago. So unless we have that increase in allocation, people will always be wanting and frustrated about the system, that they have been in the system for 20, 25 years and they haven't received a home as yet.
Understood.
And a lot of times when we talk about settlements, people think of that physical, building structure. Tell us a little bit about, is the opportunity there for persons to apply for land?
Yes, there was always that opportunity to apply for land, because right now we are waiting to finalize the RFP for lands at Adelphi in Mason, where we'll have 50 parcels of land to give out. But what we see is that a lot of the applicants are females in the system. And people are saying that they can't take the headache of having to hire a contractor back and forth. So a lot of persons we're looking at developing, have the housing units started in many areas. So this is why I said that we have this design finance modality, that these homes could really start, so people could just move into a home and not move into so quickly.
When you look at again the vision and mission of your division, mission and vision of it, what really do you want to accomplish while you are there? Because I mean, it's a wide scope. You have settlements, then we jump to rural development, we jump to public utilities.
Well, rural development and public utilities is under the auspices of Secretary Kerr, as you were here yesterday.
Yes.
And they are doing a fantastic job, especially the Rural Development Unit, and after partnering with Habitat for Humanity to do so many roof repair programs. So I know you'd have expounded on it well yesterday, but I am focused on housing. Like I said, that's my passion. And I would like to see these housing developments started because we have about 4 housing developments we hope to start this year. We have Riseland, we have Adventure, we have Sherburne, and we have Adelphi. Now, if you would remember that we had a draw in 2022 for housing at Riseland.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be 54 units. And I had a meeting on Monday with those persons who were drawn in our lottery draw and explained to them why the housing haven't started.
Right.
And I would like to say it again for Tobagonians to understand. That project was to be started since 2020. Finance for the infrastructural work an arrangement was made with the IADB, with the government of Trinidad and Tobago. That the reason that they would receive this funding is once a project is done in Tobago. The central government accessed the funding for the project in Trinidad and never accessed the funding to start the project in Tobago. So we are there sitting and waiting. NIPDEC, who was the property manager, they went ahead and got all the approval, the CEC, Tongue and Country, all the necessary approval. But they couldn't start until the government accessed the funding. And when I realized that we were being played for fools, I just talked to my chief secretary and the executive council and decided we have to opt out of this arrangement. Because we have persons with these letters in their hand hoping to get a unit as quickly as possible, and the project couldn't get off the ground. So we have now opted out of that contract. We are now doing the RFP to send out to contractors so we could have that project started, because once we have persons receiving units within this year, even though we build 20 or 50 units, I'm satisfied, because that is be 20 to 50 persons satisfied to be going that they finally have some place that they could call home.
But in a situation like that, with that contract you referred to where the THA decided to opt out, the Ministry of Housing in Trinidad give any reason, or were you able to discuss it with the minister or any technical advice as to why it ended up like this?
No, well, you see, we got that information, the chief secretary and I, and probably 2 other secretaries from the chairman of the region for IADB, that the government did not access the funding.
Okay.
And when I approved the project manager, the chairman for NIPDEC, he had no problem of giving us the opt-out, giving us the permission to opt out of the contract, because they know that the contract terms they didn't live up to the contractual terms. And in order for us to really get housing going, we have to do whatever it takes to make sure that the Tobagonians are satisfied and getting housing, because look at the disparity. You have houses given away in hundreds in Trinidad, and we cannot start because you did not access the funding to start this program. So the recipients were all flabbergasted. They were taken back, but we gave them the assurance that we're going to keep them updated as to what's the next move. But we are hoping by March we have a contract with a contractor, so we could start the process. So I'm looking if they could finish even though it's 20 units, because we're looking now, based on the number of persons we have in our database, we cannot afford to give everyone 5,000 square feet of land.
Right.
So we are looking at probably the townhouse model, so that we could, even though we could have provided 50 on the first contract with NIPDEC, we may be able to do 80 homes now.
Right.
So satisfy more persons. So we are hoping that even though the contract could be given out, as I said, by March, April, that we'll be able to hand out some of these before this term comes to an end.
Right.
And Mr. Pollard, listening to your contributions this morning, it sounds like you have very big visions for the island of Tobago, yet you have to face so many stumbling blocks throughout that journey. And it brings me to question, when progress feels slow or resistance feels high, who or what motivates you to keep pushing forward?
God and God alone. I'm glad for that question, Luke. Because sometimes I go to bed after 10 in the night, and sometimes before 1:30 I'm back up, because I came from the private sector background. So working in the public sector could be, as my friend Pastor Bain said, like molasses going up a hill in winter, because that is how the public service operates. It's at that kind of place, but I have a passion to see people have home. I tell people, I am passionate of giving out home, but I don't own a home myself. Although I have real estate.
Right.
But I'm passionate to see that I could bring a level of comfort to a person's life. So it really takes a lot to be motivated. And as Natalie said in the start of this, sometimes it takes a lot out to you as a politician to get up every day to do this and knowing that, okay, some of the roadblocks you meet are purposely done by persons you're working with. And sometimes we don't have the capacity in our division to really execute what we want to do. Because I always have big visions. I love to think big. I tell people I'm like the Americans. I love to think big. I dream big. So that it takes a lot out of you. I mean, it takes a toll on the family because, when you can't do what you want or deliver what you want to deliver, sometimes you take it home with you.
Right.
And that is part of the job. But we're hoping that now that we have a company set up in the division, that now that falls on their shoulder to deliver these projects to these people.
Understood, Mr. Pollard. And as we continue this morning's conversations, viewers are going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Just remember to share the live, share the live, share the live, and we'll be right back very soon.
Thank you, viewers, for staying with us on GMT Good Morning Tobago. I am Natalie Sealy-Richardson. Of course, co-hosting with me this morning is none other than Luke. And, as I mentioned when we started off, it's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to have Luke around with us. And, let me not talk too much of his business, or maybe he shared, because Luke is a talker, right? And he is not going to be here with us from next week because he's back to school. So, Luke, let me take this opportunity to wish you all the best. Keep representing Tobago, whatever you do, wherever you are. I know that you are always, you're always proud to let people know, hey, I'm from the island of Tobago and this is how we do things. So let me use this opportunity because I don't want to forget to wish you all the best and keep shining, keep growing.
Thank you very much, Natalie.
And if you are now joining us, viewers, we have been having this conversation with Assemblyman Mr. Pollard, Assemblyman Pollard, and he's also Secretary of the Division of Settlements, Rural Development, Settlements, Public Utilities, and Rural Development. Let me get the order correct. And for those of you who may be from Trinidad or just joining us from the islands or wherever you are and you don't know what's happening, we talk a lot about housing. And yesterday we had the Assistant Secretary for that same division on who spoke to rural development and public utilities. So we know how important it is for people to have homes, for people not to be displaced. We know the connection. When you talk about housing, we're talking about having that social impact. Now, with all of that, Mr. Pollard, you have the other side to your division where you talk about staff, where you talk about your human resources. And quite recently in the public domain, you've been seeing people sharing letters and talking about being dismissed and contracts, etc. Bring some clarity to that issue so our viewers can go away having a better understanding, or at least getting more information on what's really happening with that.
Well, thanks for that question, Natalie. In that, this has been flying about in the air before last November, when the minority leader went and made a live stating that I was dismissing 15 or 12 persons or someone, and some blogger was putting that into space. And when I went and clarified it on the newspaper, they sent a story. They said they have been trying to meet Mr. Morris to have his take on what my rebuttal. And today they haven't gotten any response from him because I only deal with the facts. You see, that unit was created in 2008, comprising 12 positions. The then administration only filled 3 of those positions. And since 2022, after I saw how housing is done in my stints to Jamaica and St. Vincent, I've been telling the division we have to restructure because housing is a social issue. The persons who they had hired at that time, some of them probably didn't have the qualifications because, it's fluid, it's changing. Housing, everything is changing in the world.
Right.
And I've been putting the division on notice since 2022 that we have to do some restructuring. That is not new. I've waited all this time. We have now established the position that will take over. So these persons, it's nothing new that they were going to be some restructuring taking place. So persons had enough time to prepare. Now I'm seeing that they're saying that 12 persons. one individual, I think today is her last working day because she turns 60 tomorrow.
Okay.
The other two individuals were given letters of, they said, dismissal. But it's not a matter of letter of dismissal. We are restructuring. I won't go into some of the personal matters why one of the two persons was dismissed. But it's just mischief in the space. Total mischief by the minority leader and those bloggers on the outside here about me dismissing persons. The unit was never decided. They said sent home 9 persons were deployed. What the division did is everyone who came in as a BOA1, they just put them in the client relation unit.
Okay.
The unit, they were never part of the organizational structure. So now that myself and the administrator, we are looking at the entire division, and now that I have an administrator working with me, I must say that we have decided to build organize the unit out as it meant to be, in order to have proper delivery to the persons in Tobago. So it's nothing about sending anyone home maliciously or anything like that. It's just bringing it in line with what we see, what obtains in housing, and having the right persons to deal with this situation, because you have to look at the social side. It's not just going out and looking at a house and giving them money to repair.
Right.
Sometimes that homes have children who have cerebral palsy. You have domestic situation. So we now have social intervention officers going out and look at these homes and doing a proper assessment so that these recipients could get funding up to a certain level. It's not about just changing windows. It's about improving the quality of the home. So that will have some positive impact on society.
Right.
So it's not a matter of targeting anyone. It's just streamlining and changes. The Prime Minister went on here and said he's not closing down petrol train.
Right.
What happened after that? Thousands of persons went home.
Right.
But we have some mischief makers in this space who want to put it out there like, this dispensation is targeting. No, we are not targeting. We are just streamlining the division as they're supposed to be, or how they're supposed to operate. That's all.
Understood, Mr. Pollard. And thank you for the clarity. And in leadership, we understand that sometimes you don't know what an island needs or what the country needs until you travel out and you go into the region and you baptize yourself in that regional understanding. And we appreciate that rural development is vital for a balanced regional growth. Talk to me about what initiatives have been introduced to promote development in Tobago's rural areas, and how have they impacted the local communities?
Well, one initiative I could talk about is the partnering with Habitat for Humanity. And God has sent them at the right time. Because they have been in Trinidad and Tobago for 27 years. They did, I think, 2 projects in Mariah, but they were never encouraged to come on the landscape of Tobago. And Ms. Messiah, the director, could tell you that Secretary Pollard is the one who actually opened the doors for them in Tobago. So these initiatives that they bring, because like they have the roof repair program, they had funding for $1.5 million to assist homeowners in Tobago. And the Chief Secretary with infinite wisdom didn't just accept the $1.5 million. He matched them with $1.5 million.
Right.
So that more homes could be repaired. And now they are seeking funding to do other things on Tobago. And all of this is spearheaded by the Rural Development Unit. So the members of staff out there going, taking assessment of these homes, sending it back to Trinidad. They're doing the assessment. And we are hiring Tobago contractors, as small the repairs as could be. Because some of the repairs are like $12,000. We do roof repair up to $60,000. So Tobago contractors are hired to do these repairs. They are given a timeline, and we move on. And I think they started a new batch last week of another 20 or so roofs that they're gonna do. So Habitat is coming in here with a lot of initiative, because clearly they realize we don't have the funding. They even looking to assist us because land title is a problem.
Yes.
They have worked with the Jamaican government to bring land title regularization in Jamaica. It took them 5 years, but it's something that we are looking to initiate here in Tobago because we still have lands in our great-grandparents' name.
Correct.
So that amalgamation with the Rural Development Unit and Habitat for Humanity is working well for Tobago and Tobagonians, and we encourage them. They're even doing greenhouses in different communities. They have so many initiatives, coastal repairs initiative. They are doing a number of work on the island, and we encourage them. They should be here the first week in February for 5 days. We are doing rainwater harvesting. We are doing solar panel. They are doing everything that they are doing on the outside, and they are looking for money. I think they are coming there with some of the funding. The Canadian government will be with some of the individuals will be accompanying them next week. So it's only good work that is being done by the Rural Development Union, and I applaud the entire team for the hard work that they're doing to bring these changes that because Most people don't look at the rural side of the island, you know.
True.
They look at the southwestern end and everything is nice
Yes.
and hunky-dory.
Yeah.
But when we go in and we see that children, holes in the flooring that children could fall through. I mean, house in total decay, dilapidated.
Yeah.
So these are the people that really need, and this is why we are saying some of the own grants were not meeting the people who really need it. Because you have persons here just want to change a door, change some windows, and you have persons up there who house are actually falling down. So we are targeting the rural areas so we could uplift these persons' life and so we could all grow together as Tobagonians.
And I want to switch gear because we've been talking to you as secretary. I want to talk to you as assemblyman and talk about the area you represent. Now, you have been the area representative. Walk us through the probably initial thoughts of being approached, or have you always been in politics? Did you always want to represent your area?
I've been in politics 49 years of my life this year. And like I said, I'm passionate about helping, but I never wanted to serve in this capacity. I've been approached and I've turned it down. I've always liked to support those who were in it before because I see myself as an activist. But God spoke to me in 2020 and I decided I could have made a change. Because when you're from the outside looking in, it's a different picture than when you're inside looking out.
Correct.
And I said, I could really make a change in a person's life. But I didn't expect that the public service will be moving at that snail pace. Because like I said, I'm a land developer, real estate. We move with speed. And then to come to this where everything has to be documented, sent here, sent there, files are lost, files are hidden, all kind of games being played. But I have always been passionate about helping persons. I mean, the community, you wouldn't believe the number of problems that is out there. Some of them are, mind-boggling, what people call you and ask you for. And it could be really tiring. But one of the greatest setbacks for me is not being able to deliver to the people. I believe in economic empowerment. Hence, I am hoping that we could have more private sector jobs on the island. Hence, we are trying to give out all these lands and these homes so that people could feel that self-worth. It's not about paving the roads or putting up a brace wall or fixing a drain. That's not it. When I demit this office, people in my constituency must feel that economic empowerment. No matter even though it's 10, 15, 20, they must feel that economic empowerment. And we hope that we could break that cycle of this early morning work. That persons could have that pride that they could know that, okay, I have to work hard to maintain a family. So my setback is not being able to deliver to the people. I have some initiative that I campaigned on, that we have started working on, that I would like to see come to fruition, because on the Adelphi estate in Masonol, we have 84 persons who have no land title. I'm hoping that this year they could be surveyed and they'll be given their letter of comfort that they could now approach financial institutions for funding, because the ripple effect of that is if they go to the bank to seek funding, the less persons have to come to the division asking for grants.
Correct.
And it gives that feel of empowerment. I've also worked on acquiring or asking the Chief Secretary and the Executive Council to acquire 144 acres of land in Mason Hall so that we could have village expansion. So these are initiatives that I've been working on that I hope that could come to fruition before the next election so that people could feel empowered. You know how you feel when you own a parcel of land or you own your own home? But what is happening is that people are seeing that they're saying the system is rigged. I will never get this. I will never get that.
Right.
You know how great it will feel to know that, okay, you've been selected and you have a parcel of land that you could call your own, that your children could inherit. And while we're on that, we are now changing the policy to have intergenerational mortgages so that your children could be on the mortgage. So even though you pass away, they will take up the mortgage payments. So it's not a matter of when the principal person dies, they are evicted and no.
Right.
So we are trying to make this more palatable for Tobago and Tobagonians, because it's one thing God is not making more of, that is lands. And we have a limited available lands.
How do you balance the two responsibilities of being secretary and assemblyman? Because many times you hear constituents complain if the area rep is also, heavily involved in the administration of the island, because the talk is, we don't see him, we don't see her, what's going on? How do you find a balance with that?
It's hard. I could say that I need to do much better with where my constituents. I'm going to be first to say that, because sometimes it's tiring. Because sometimes when you have to deal with the rigors of running a division, and then you go home and then you have to go out there and deal with the public and the needs out there. And not to say that they are unwarranted needs.
Right.
Some of the needs are valid, but just that you don't have the resources to do it. I wish I had the bring struck of money that I could give persons to assist them with whatever they need, because I know that they really need the assistance. But sometimes you just cannot. And I'm a very passionate kind of person. I put my heart in whatever I'm doing. And it hurts me to see sometimes you can't assist some of these persons that need assistance. I do help where I can. I don't like the problem. I'm not one of the Gen Z or Gen Y.
Right.
I do things quietly. If I'm assisting someone, the world doesn't have to know.
Right.
Who must feel that effect is the person that I'm assisting and the family. And that is what is important to me.
And of course, viewers, we go for a quick break. We will return. So maybe you need to share the live, share the live, share the live.
Tobago updates. Good morning.
Welcome back to Beneath the Surface right here on Tobago Updates, and we are chatting with Assemblyman Ian Pollard. Now, Mr. Pollard, earlier in the interview, we would have identified a problem where housing is concerned, touching on the fact that we have people waiting in the system for over 20 plus years. And while it's always good to identify a problem, it's also even more important to delve into the solution. What are some strategies that you have implemented or we can see being implemented in the near future to alleviate the waiting time that these people have been experiencing for years?
Well, Luke, I had discussion with the Executive Council on changing the policy where persons who are in the system for a long period of time. And we started that with our last draw for persons at Pollard. Whereby some persons are in the system 20 plus years. But when there is this modified draw, they are put into the general pool of it with everyone. So what we're doing is putting it in categories. You're in the pool for 20 years, we're going to have a draw for persons in that pool for 20 years. You're in there for 15 years, only persons who have been there for 15 years, beside the normal selection of public servants, protective services,
Right.
persons, young persons, persons with disability. Because in order to bring some kind of comfort back, persons who believe that the system is rigged, to bring some confidence, to know that, okay, yes, I could still have a chance. But what I've noticed since taking office is that some persons, they come and put their name into the system and they think it's an automatic rollover.
Okay.
If you're doing a development in Mason Hall and you choose Mason Hall as the place that you want to live or own a parcel of land, once that development is completed, your name doesn't go over to the next development, let's say in Color Hall. You now have to come and update your application to Color Hall to be eligible to be qualified for that joint Color Hall. So some persons just put their name down and think that I'm not hearing my name. And I think the division, I spoke to the communication unit, I spoke to my assistant and the administrator, that we have to do a better job of informing the public of this. That you must come and update your application in order to be qualified for any specific draw. So I tell everyone, Adelphi, Adventia, Riseland, Shervan, bring all your applications up to date with these places, because these are where the next draw is going to take place. And hopefully later in the year, Bacalet. So that is part of the problem why some people think they are not getting through and the system is rigged. The last draw we had for Riseland, I remember a gentleman brought in his application the Thursday. The draw was Friday at, I think, 1 o'clock. And his name came up. There was a lady who was in the system 20 years. And her name came up because we have changed that policy.
Right.
So it's something that we have to look at in order to bring, like I said, confidence back to the persons applying. That, hey, I could stand a chance. Because if I know me and you went into the draw, the pool at the same time, and you get through, I say, right, at least I have some confidence, I have some hope. But if you're not seeing that taking place, is a disadvantage. Also, the Chief Secretary initiated that random selection may not be the best option.
Okay.
So we are looking at different options. Probably first come, first in, first out.
Okay.
You're in the system long enough, you have your children with these intergenerational mortgages, you will just hand out homes or lands to these persons who are in the system for that length of time. Once we could have the payments maintained, that's how we do it. But life is dynamic, it's fluid, it's changing. So we have to change with the times as to bring some level of comfort to the people of Tobago.
And look, before you ask the question, the Assemblyman just mentioned that with updating your application, and hearing him say it makes sense, but I never processed it like that. And really, when you're on the inside of an office or an organization, things seem quite matter of a fact, and the drive to communicate outwardly may not be as strong. So it will really be a good thing, Assemblyman, for the division really to bump up some of the publication, the communication coming out of the office, because I think even for some persons who may have applied, it may now make sense, oh, that's why I'm not being selected, because your application is there. You never really process, okay, well, those areas are closed off, and that's what I had on my list. Probably some of you may not even remember where you selected. So what's the process if I need to update? Do I just walk into the office and then I'd be guided, or is there a number to call? How does it work?
When you come to the office, if you have your form that you give when you first entered into the system, and you could just give them a name, and they will pull it up in the system and tell them you request to change, and you request to update your status. And then you let them know what you're interested in, and they do that, and they give you a copy. So you're now eligible for the draw that is upcoming, whatever draw is upcoming.
Understood, Mr. Pollard. Talk to me about community, because chatting with you on and off camera, we are getting the understanding that community means a lot to you. So what are some initiatives you have implemented thus far throughout your tenure, and what can we expect to see for 2025?
Well, I'm like I said, I'm a sports enthusiast, and I'm interested in economic empowerment. I have sponsored the Masonal League in the tune of over $100,000 of my money for the last two seasons that I've promoted it. Because besides taking the young men off the street and bringing everybody back to the recreation grounds, there's economic activities happening, because persons come in and sell water, popcorn, snow cone, nuts. And this is the kind of economic activity I would like to see generated in communities. I hire a DJ for every game so that, he could pump up and keep the place, live and stuff like that. So this is some of the things that I like to see happening in the community, that at least give people that sense of hope that, okay, something is happening. I could go out there, I could make $1. We have children coming around and selling mango in the night. They're selling, whether the parents make fudge or sugar cake, but there's some economic activity that is happening in this space. And it bodes well, because like I said, Masonal and the Mariah Football League are the two best leagues running in Tobago right now, where participation is concerned and crowd support. And we intend to continue it just in order to support. I don't ask the community businesses for no assistance, because you know why? Some of these same families go to these businesses and trust their monthly supply of goods.
Right.
So the shop owners now have that debt on their hand, and then for them to come and put money into what I do. So I tried to find the money. I sponsored, like I said, the last 2 years. Cost me over $100,000, but it was well worth it, because you know why? I'm seeing the reward of it.
Right.
And that is what I'm passionate about.
Nice, Mr. Pollard. And if you were to speak to your younger self and give young Ian Pollard advice, what advice would you give to him?
Stay rooted. There's still hope. No matter what you think, how bad a situation is, there is still hope for the young persons. Some of them are just misguided. They just need that support. Because some of us, I myself, probably haven't given back enough. Monetary, financial, give back, that's only one aspect. But given the time, the nurture. When I pass the street in Mason Hall, and it's not now, they call me Mr. Whitey, because they respect you.
Right.
And sometimes these people are reaching out, they're yearning for some kind of role model. Someone, a big brother, a father figure that they could sit and talk with, because they would have seen life in one way, but they don't know the struggles. When I went to university, I was homeless. I used to be sleeping by friends, pulling my suitcase, because I was on a partial scholarship. Nobody don't know the struggles I went to. I used to work with the police on campus. I slept in the tea room for more than 4 months. I had to get up and walk about half mile to the washroom in the gym to bathe, morning and night. I worked construction 18 hours a day, and then went and worked with the police from midnight to 6 because I had desk duties. So when people know these struggles, they could have that kind of sense that, okay, yeah, all is not lost. But like I said, we are sometimes so busy, wrapped up in ourselves, that we don't give back to these youths. And we say that the youths have gone astray. Yes, but we we, the persons who have made it and persons my age, we need to go and have conversation with these young men and young women and let them know. I know the outlook may look dismal, but all is not lost.
And you're talking about dismal, your area, Mason Hall, Mariah. We can also talk about Assemblyman Hackett's area, Golden Lane, Bethesda, Mason, that Leketo, that near north kind of area. And we see the transformation not for the better, unfortunately, where you have a lot of, accusations of guns coming in. You hear the police mention it as a hot spot and guns coming in certain areas. As one of the area representatives for that zone, what are some of maybe the plans you have or what you would like to see done in addressing the crime, the increase of crime in those areas?
Well, one is crime is a mindset, I think. I mean, jobs is another thing because of the underfunding we have from the central government. We seek more feasible, wise to do the 10 on 10 off that we are doing now. Because if we take on persons permanently, we could only take on about 300 persons.
Right.
But when we do the 10 off, 10 on, 10 off program, we're employing over 800 persons. So that although it's not, you're getting a big salary, but at least everybody got a little piece of something. Electrification in the area, I don't know if Secretary Kerr spoke about it yesterday because we have some places in the north side that needs electrification. I spoke to the Executive Council on Tuesday because you're hearing the reports from the police service that this proliferation of guns into the island. And we know that we have some coastal areas that could harbor these kind of activities.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him if he will fund because the division doesn't have the money to do that. So asked if he could provide the funding so we could do the electrification of King Peter Bay Road and Culloden Bay. So that will assist, give the residents and the police a fact that, okay, the lighting of these areas will form some deterrent to any illegal activity that takes place because the young men in these areas, like I said, there's not much job opportunity and they are swayed by these illicit or illegal activities. So we have to find some way that will help the police, give confidence to the residents that, okay, all these activities happening because there's no electricity here and this and whatever is situation. So we are trying our best to assist in that way. He told me to get the TNTech to at least to design and to price whatever it costs because you see that we lit from Delaford right into Charlottesville.
Yes.
So we're trying to do that. So once we get that costing from TNTech, we have a meeting with them on Monday that we'll see if the funding is available so we could at least bring some level of comfort to the parents who live in that area, at these places, because we have to do something to assist these young men.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to the principal of Mason High School when they had their sports last Friday. And from the educational standpoint, we have to do some serious intervention. Because I'm saying the young men are failing and they haven't been failing now, they have been failing a long time. And parenting is part of the factor of this. So we have to intervene in the homes. We have to find various methods in how to reach these young men. Because I'm saying, if you see a young man, you have tests from standard 1, and your charges are in the bottom half of the class, last, second to last, third to last. When you reach at standard 2, you must ask yourself a question. There's a problem here. This child is not showing any signs of improvement. And the advent of tech focus, we have demonized trade.
Yeah.
So that the young men probably don't even have that aspiration to go into any kind of trade work. But with Secretary Hackett, Mason High School, we are looking to put on a tech voc wing. Because what I found in campaigning is that in my electoral district, we have 8 joiners. Most of them operate from their homes. And I said to her, why don't we just have like a nip deck where we build the base
Right.
and have these units rented out to these joiners. They could now build their furniture to sell to the public, but the children now could be apprentices at this, and even these set of mechanic shops on the road, on the roadway, so they could rent these built. So those persons who are interested, you see, if we don't give them the opportunity, we cannot fault them for all that they're doing wrong. But we have to find initiatives or ways that we could get persons involved, because academia is not the only thing. Skills is what counts.
But I must interrupt you there because as you said, we demonize the tech work area. And I know you hear people who tell children who may not be so academically inclined, oh, go and learn a trade. And that's why sometimes we have the problems with tradesmen who can't even, put together a quotation, etc. Because it's not for those who may have learning issues, because if you have to learn a skill, you have to be able to learn, you have to measure, you're still doing maths, you have to be able to write, etc. So I think we really have to, because some people still have that attitude, I have, my husband always encourages the very bright children to go learn that skill, because when you marry those two strengths, no one can stop you. So I think as a people, we have to stop looking down and even making our children feel, well, you're not good in the classroom, so you're just good to learn a trade. And, sometimes, because I am one of those who, for me, my academic development, that's the line I went to. And I often tell my husband, when you're working in an office for somebody, you're making no money. Best I learn how to fix cars or something, because it becomes my business, my trade, and I can take it to another level in addition to the schooling that I have. And you see other ethnic groups who are successful at it. So I think we really have to work on that. And you mentioned getting the young men off the road in terms of job, but I have to ask you, Assemblyman, do you think the guys who are on the block really want a job? And we're just generalizing.
Yes. It's a question that we ask ourselves every day in executive councils, because you're providing this temporary employment. It's better than nothing, because you're complaining that you have nothing, and then there's still illegal activities.
Right.
So sometimes they don't have the motivation, the drive. That's why I say something has to fuel it.
Right.
And I like encouraging persons to do what they like, not what you want them to do. And that is what is very, very important. Because COVID would have been a great teacher to me and should have been a great teacher to others.
Right.
Beside working from home, the few government workers, who was making the money over COVID? Skilled persons.
Yep.
The tradesmen was still available to go out there to go and do their work. But you had to be cooped up home if you didn't have a skill. And we're seeing where I sometimes pay excavator operators $600 a day.
Yeah.
You pay back operators $500 a day. But I mean, we have to first find out what these children really like, and then put them into that direction to make sure that, okay, because if you know you're getting up every day to do something that you like, there's more energy, there's more enthusiasm.
Yep.
But it's because it's just to go and get a DP.
Yeah. You get nothing out
They
of
get
that
nothing
person.
out of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Quite
Understood,
true.
Mr. Pollard, but unfortunately, we're all out of time for this morning. But it's always important to have these multifaceted conversations, Natalie. Do you agree?
Definitely. Again, it's called Beneath the Surface for a reason,
Correct.
right?
Correct. So, Mr. Pollard, I want to thank you for agreeing to sit in the Beneath the Surface share this morning. The conversations, I think they were different. I think you were the first one that actually took accountability for some of the shortcomings, and you were honest and transparent. So we want to thank you for that. And viewers, this is week 2 of the Beneath the Surface series. Next week, we continue. We do hope to still see Miss Megan Morrison. We have been expecting her since last week.
Right.
So hopefully next week, for all the viewers that have been calling and asking, we should expect to see Miss Morrison. Hopefully, we are expecting to sit down with the Chief Secretary sometime next week. Assemblyman Zia Hackett, Assemblyman Faith Brebner. So next week might be a very interesting week for all and some. So for those of you who missed the first 2 weeks, the replays are available right here on Tobago Updates on multiple platforms, YouTube, Facebook. If you want to visit the website to catch up and see the trajectory of the series thus far, you can do just that. But viewers, for all of you who always tune in, thank you for choosing Tobago Updates to start your morning on the right note. Thank you for believing in the vision and the impact we have here on the island. And most importantly, you have a blessed and safe weekend. All right, everyone. So as we depart, just remember to share the live, share the live, share the live.